Welcome to Comic Book Wednesdays. We're a weekly comic book series where we talk about comic books. We're your hosts, I'm Ian.
I'm Al.
And I'm Shane.
If you're enjoying our content so far, you've probably already liked, comment, and subscribe. But if you're new, please do one or all three of those things. So we are reaching the end of Jonathan Hickman's run on Avengers and New Avengers. So next week we will be jumping into Secret Wars. But
Dun
the
dun dun
issues
dun.
Woo! The issues this week were New Avengers 32, Avengers 43, New Avengers 33, and Avengers 44. Um, and all of them really had like this nice individual like feel to them, while like all feeling very cohesive. Like I feel like each issue gave us another really awesome moment. So let's get into it. Shane, why don't you start us off?
Sure. So, first issue, we have New Avengers 32, correct?
Yes.
Okay. The first note that I have was, let me go ahead and pull this up here.
Yeah, yeah.
It was the fading panel of, I think Adam. Was that his name? The one with the moon on his head, or
Ye-
I might have his name wrong.
yeah, no, Adam.
Nighthawk.
That's right.
Yeah, and how he was going, like how he was like reversing himself and like sacrificing himself there, and I really enjoyed that because it kind of like set the tone for the rest of the book. Because good God, these issues went into so many things.
Oh yeah, totally. And if the vibe I was getting from what he was doing was he was setting up another white event. I don't know if that's correct. So like he channeled another white event, which allows them to find the Beyonders. Is that what you guys were
That's
picking
how
up
I
too?
understood it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm. But yeah, there's a lot going on here. So continue, Shane. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. So that was the first note that I had taken was that, and then immediately after that, you have the two of them saying, you are sentient and therefore capable of comprehension. We are beyond your understanding. Like, basically, no matter what you're going to throw at us, it's not going to matter. And then, kind of bold words in my, thought. But then everything that they threw at them, they proceeded to prove that.
Right.
I gotta tell you, it was a really nice wrap up to Thor and Hyperion's relationship in a sense, and
Oh yeah.
Miles in a sense, because I've through the books that we've read, I really enjoyed the brothership that formed between those two,
Mhm.
and it's a shame to see that them end, but it was a really nice wrap up to their situation.
I agree. It's like all good things need to come to an end, right? But at the same time, you're like, damn, they have to be done with them, or like this relationship was so good. It's such a like
Mm-hmm.
in modern media, you don't usually see like such strong like two guy characters have a strong brotherhood when they're not actually brothers. It's kind of refreshing.
Yeah.
Um, I like that a lot.
And that
No,
pretty
me.
much ended that book, right?
Well, there's a lot that happens in that book. Like
Yeah, Thor
Jesus,
gets his arm ripped off.
Yeah.
Thor, like, and something I like the text. Just so, like, not everybody's reading the books with us, but like for those who have and who are following, the Beyonders show up. There's this like bright white light, and they don't just have normal text bubbles. They literally like speak like across the page in this like almost like calligraphy like text, and
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing to look at. Like I really love how they did that. It kind of gives them this
Oh,
sense
good catch.
of like it gives them this all powerful sense that the other characters don't have, their text literally transcends the page almost, and I really like that a lot.
I actually had a question for the both of you.
Sure.
Towards that ending bit, right when so shortly after Thor gets his arm ripped off, and he's like, we did it, we won. And then, they have this moment of realization of like, okay, no, we didn't. We're going to die here. Why, what are your guys' thoughts on why Thor suddenly became unworthy?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know why that happened.
He, he's like, was he doubting himself? Was he doubting his own worthiness?
I don't know. That's what kind of surprised me. But I do really love the line of, so be it. This is the end. Let me not meet it as the unworthy, but as my father's son. Like, it didn't seem to phase him all that much. Like in the end, he like had that moment where he recognized that he wasn't worthy, and then he was like, "Well, fuck it. I need to get into Valhalla anyway, so whatever."
Right. It's
But it just
almost as
surprised me because it didn't really seem like anything caused it.
right, unless it's like the Beyonders doing it. But like,
Ooh. Do you
I
think they
don't.
have the power to do that?
They have the power to kill Celestials. I think they have the power to.
Yeah, I think they can do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, they don't even have time. You know what I mean? Like they're beyond our understanding. So like, um, plot device enters chat. Like
Hmm. They have plot armor.
yeah, to a point. We'll, we we'll learn that Doom doesn't give a shit about plot armor.
Doom is plot armor.
Yeah, pretty much. Um, but yeah, no, I don't know why he becomes unworthy, but you would think his being like I don't even give a fuck attitude would kind of lean into him being worthy. You know,
That's what
it,
I thought it was going to happen. Like he was totally going to pick up the hammer and just fucking annihilate him, but
it
not so much.
and like the thought process I have here behind that kind of leads to something from another piece of media. So
Hmm.
y'all are both familiar with Harry Potter. Um, in the
Yeah.
Nah,
Sorcerer's
never heard of
Stone,
it.
in the sor- in the Sorcerer's Stone, um, Harry gets the Sorcerer's Stone because he wants to get it but not use it. So he was worthy to
Mhm.
get it, and that was like my. Wouldn't the hammer almost work in the same way? Like he doesn't want to use. He doesn't need to use the hammer. He doesn't feel dependent on the hammer. So therefore, shouldn't he be able to use it? I know it's not exactly the same one-off like comparison, but it's just how my thoughts think. You know.
No, that makes sense, and I have to wonder if like I don't know, because like right after that scene, it doesn't. There's not really a whole lot to pull off of, and I mean, if I were to just take that at face value, him getting his arm taken off, and
So that wasn't
you
his
know,
arm anyway, right? Like that was the destroyer's arm, right?
I guess. Did we ever see his arms get replaced? I think that might have happened in another book.
I don't remember his arm ever getting ripped off.
So his arm got ripped off by the Beyonder in this book.
Oh,
So
okay. I must have
if
just missed it, but
if it happens quick, I had to look at it like twice because um, where Thor is at this point, he has two silver arms, and you're like, well, why does he have two silver arms? Are they robot arms? Like, what's going on? Well,
yeah,
when they get ripped off, it's blood and flesh underneath. So like maybe they're just gloves or some type of armor.
I thought it was armor.
oh, see, that's what I was calling the destroyer's arms.
So that was the part you were missing, right? It was just the
No, see, I thought that was like a replacement. Like he used the destroyer's arm to replace his arm.
oh yeah, but
I
either
didn't
way,
realize it was just armor. on top.
I wasn't sure either way, but it does get ripped off of Thor's body, and he doesn't have a
Oh yeah,
hand
definitely.
underneath. So like, even if it is armor, his arm came with it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh, and I mean, I liked how like Hyperion was like, "Oh, I am the sun." He's like, "We destroy and build stars." Like what?
And then try to fucking like stick their fingers in his eyes.
Yeah, try to rip his eyes out, and then I think that's a Starbrand goes like sky high, and as he like kind of blows himself up.
Yeah, that one pretty much covered that one.
That's it. That's that issue. I mean, it's just that multiverse team attempts to fight the Beyonders and lose.
There was one line that I wanted to mention though.
Yeah.
At one point, the Beyonders say only two will stand, and at first I thought it was going to be Thor and Hyperion because they killed those two, and it ended up not being them. Find out later who it is, but it was a pretty cool wrap up to that.
Yeah, definitely. Shane, Avengers 43. Why don't you lead us into that,
Yes.
buddy?
Sure. First note I have for Avengers 43 was when T'Challa frees Tony from the prison.
Oh, yes.
Or
Spicy.
and they're having this conversation of, what are we going to do? What is this? And Tony's just like, I am sinful. I am all of these things that you say I am, but at least let me die with a purpose. And so it just surprised me that T'Challa was like, all right, you know what? Go do something.
What else does he have to lose?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, nothing at this point. T'Challa is just like, you know what? I'm done. And we kind of see him talking. I don't know if this is the same issue, but he goes to talk to Barack Obama. Is that the same issue, or is that the next? I think that might be the last Avengers book.
Yeah, I think that's the following one.
Okay. But yeah, T'Challa's not in a good place, and why should he be?
No, I mean, he has yet to find out that Namor's still alive. That's going to put him in an even worse spot, that's for sure.
Oh
Yeah, he
yeah,
ain't gonna be happy about that one.
for sure. I think he's got bigger shit to fry right now with the multiverse ending. But yeah, totally.
And then we have after that the conversation with Cap, and they had that sit down moment of like, here's what we want to do, like just listen, just hear us out. And it was nice to get that little small side of Cap again being, semi like quasi logical, where he's like, okay, I'll hear you out. Tell me what you're gonna tell me.
Yeah, it
I
almost
didn't
feels
expect that.
like Cap's attitude towards everything is mostly negative towards Tony. It feels like as far as like Reed goes and the rest of Illuminati, yeah, they've killed people and they destroyed planets, but he doesn't hate them like he hates Tony.
Yeah. No, I mean we eventually get into the climax of that, which I thought was just perfect.
Chef's kiss, absolutely
Yes.
perfect. Um, Al, I always love your insights on Cap because you really do care about the character. Um, how did you feel about this issue with Cap kind of calming down a bit?
Um, I agree with the statement that it kind of brings Cap back to his almost normal rationalizing self, and he still has a bit of an edge to him that it's very uncap like for me at least, and finally getting to see his anger towards Tony for a pretty unreasonable state in my opinion. It was an interesting scene.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. Cap's in a weird spot, and it only gets weirder in comics. I mean, honestly, for the after Secret Wars is done and they continue, they start doing the Hydra Cap stuff. Uh, he's not that point yet, but that's like the next progression for his character. So like, Cap isn't the Cap we know for a while. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like he's kind of changed and just continues. Um,
It reminds me almost of like what we got from Peter Parker at the beginning of this stuff. Like he just like it's a completely different character that's not the character we all grew up loving. You know what I mean?
right. Yep. And again, there are outside the books outside the books we read reasons for why Peter is the way he is or
Oh
was the
yeah,
way
we
he
just didn't.
was.
Mm.
And that's actually the Spider-Man story that I want to read. Um, so eventually we'll get to it when my turn comes around again. Um, we'll get to that book. I'm not going to spoil it for you guys because it's really good.
Fair enough.
No, I'm looking forward to it.
What else, Shane, from this issue
Yes.
43?
Well, we have the attack on the planet by the Magister and all of his people.
Does it get to the climax in this issue, or is that the last
No,
of it?
it has the when they turned on the weapon and it started. He was like 6 ship lost, direct thermal vent, like the humans always surprise us. That was as far as it gets because immediately right after that we have Tony making the like analogy of like I am Icarus flying directly to the sun, and like that is just the fucking pinnacle of Tony's arrogance, being like, yes, you can compare me to a myth. You can compare me to this, because not only will I not die, I'll do it better.
Right. I'm not going to get my wings burned from flying too close to the sun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up the critical mass, the weapon. That's I think Al was mentioning it off recording earlier with Sunspot and how he was disappointed how he like messed
I
up.
mean, you see such a growth of Sunspot and Cannonball through the series that it was just like really disappointed that he just like went full child mode and was like, "No, keep pushing it."
Right.
Yeah, that felt a little off to me.
It totally fell off. I agree. It's almost like that cheesy moment in a movie where you're like, keep on firing, we have no choice, like we have to do this. Only like for it not to work, and then there to be plenty of options.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then that weapon was then down, so it's like, what the hell?
Yeah,
Um,
so we had that for the rest of that one, and then it gets into New Avengers 33.
cool. Let's jump into it. I think New Avengers 33 was the one that I texted you about.
It was, yeah,
Yeah.
Doom becoming plot armor.
Doom. I fucking love
That
Doctor Doom.
I'm not gonna lie to you. This one confused me a little bit because I understand like some of the timey nonsense, but it still threw me off a little bit.
Well, let's talk about it then, because we had to have thought about like Doom had to transcend time somehow. It's
Yeah,
the only way he could have been the leader of the Black Swans. So, what part of it was getting at your brain in a bad way?
sure. So just to kind of start from the beginning, we have Molecule Man and Doom kind of going through, and Molecule Man, like for a brief moment, gains clarity. And he says to Doom, he's like, not only have I brought you to, to this point, but I'm showing you what you have to become in order for this to work. And so he's talking to his past self, or like another version, and then he kills him. And so he tells Doom, he's like, all beings exist in various states. And it shows all of these different versions of Doom and all of these different versions of Molecule Man. And the only comparison point that I have is Doctor Who. And in Doctor Who, you have this character called Captain Jack Harkness. And Captain Jack gets exposed to like some crazy time energy, and he becomes a fixed point in time and space. That just means that no matter what happens, he is always going to be there, whether he dies in one reality or lives to old age or gets stabbed or gets poisoned, whatever. He's always going to come back, and there's always going to be a version of him in a point in time. And I feel like that's kind of what happened to Doom and Molecule Man, where they made this permanent constant. Is that what you guys are getting to?
In a way. Al, do you want to give your interpretation before I go?
No, you go ahead first.
Okay. So how I was picking that up is Molecule Man was created as a constant throughout the multiverse. He does not have variants. He's always the same, and he lives all universes at the same time. So he sees every possible reality all at the same time. And this happened due to that experiment that we see happening when Doom and Molecule Man went back in time. He does not remember anything before that. After that experiment, he becomes the Molecule Man. And I think he was saying the Beyonders initiated the change when he was doing that experiment. I might be wrong on that part.
That I agree with that. And then they sent the other, who was it, the Black Priest, to stop the changes that were happening because of Doom.
So
Is that correct?
my thing is the Black Priests are a the Black Priests were created by the multiverse themselves, or at least that's how I was picking that up.
Okay.
Is that the multiverse needed an equalizing agent, basically?
Yes, that's how I was interpreting that. But yeah, like
That's what I got too.
so, and then to take it a step further with the Molecule Man, the way that I'm understanding Doom's mission is that he has to kill Molecule Man in every universe
Mm-hmm.
in order to stop um, the the destruction of the multiverse, because Molecule Man acts as a bomb to the universe that he's in. So he's the catalyst that is destroying the multiverse.
Yeah, that's what I got as well. And that's what kind of like confused me a little bit, because I didn't really see the full reason as to the why. I just kind of was like, okay, if this is what's going on, I'm just going to roll with it.
Right. Yeah, it was
Do
definitely a
you
little
guys have any
confusing.
insights for that?
Insights for what specifically, as far as like
Just like what the reasoning was, because like aside from universe correction, which is what I kind of gathered, um, I was still a little confused as to like if that was the reason or if there was anything more. Just because when you go into time nonsense and like multiverse stuff, it does get a little confusing. And so I was just curious if you guys had any like further thoughts on that, or if that was the same conclusion that you guys were getting.
be honest, I'm a little confused on like to what aspect you're talking about, and I'm sorry. It's just
Oh,
the
it's all good. I can
uh,
rephrase it. It's
Yeah,
I
yeah.
might have phrased it poorly.
If you don't mind.
No, not at all. So, in talking about like the Black Swan stuff and what was going on,
Hmm.
it seemed like that had to happen. Doom going after Molecule Man had to happen in every iteration of every universe in order for things to keep on spinning, basically.
So, real quick, let me answer that before you continue. So, my
Yeah.
interpretation of that is Doom from 616 travels outside the multiverse into a space where, like, he really shouldn't be able to exist, but the Molecule Man helps him exist outside of the
The
realm
cosmic
of.
library is what you're referring to, correct?
Right, the Cosmic Library is this, like, outside the space area. Um, and Doom gains the ability not only to traverse the multiverse but also to traverse time, um, and is then able to go back in time and kill, and then can then destroy every Molecule Man that there is. And he's got 25 years to do this. That's the
Mhm.
time frame. Now, every we see other versions of Doom in the comic when Molecule Man is explaining this to Doom, but those other versions are just explaining how variants work, and then how he doesn't have variants. He being Molecule Man. So when you see the other versions of Doom, that's not to confuse you in saying there are infinite amount of Dooms doing this. That is saying that there just are an infinite amount of Doom variants. Does that make
Right,
sense?
because not all of them have the same mission. Only
Right.
the Doom from 616 has the mission of destroying the Molecule Man in the 25 years, so he doesn't blow up and kill everybody.
Right. Right.
Yeah, no, that honestly makes sense. I was just making sure that like that there wasn't anything further because that's what I got as well. But I also know that like some time things can be tricky and confusing, and so I wanted to make sure I was on the same page as you guys, basically.
Yeah. There's a lot of fuckery about. So
Very
I get
much
that.
so, yeah.
Totally get where you're coming from. Fascinating. Really good stuff. For for Doom to be like not only like the Doom we know from the point that we started reading, but also have been in the background the whole time, like as this mastermind behind the Black Swans. That's fascinating. Like he talks about creating a religion and like get in and like furthering the dogma of his religion and stuff. And I was like, that's such fascinating stuff because he's right. That's how cults work. Like, jeez.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Doom is. I understand why you guys have wanted to talk about him so much because, like, as I'm reading this, I'm like, oh god, he's. Can't wait to see what else he's gonna pull.
Tell me, did you grab the screenshot of him talking to the Beyonders? Because the Beyonders are like, "Who dares stand in our way?" And he's like, "Me, the bringer of doom, the bringer of your doom." Like I was like, "Oh my god, this guy is so cool! I can't wait to see him on the big screen."
They have this like we are beyond dreamers, destroyers, all of reality, our whim. Who dares? And he goes, I, Doom. Like
Doom.
that's enough for him to just be like, no, it's me,
See, it's funny because
literally, and my name.
I kind of see him as like an amped up Tony Stark. Like when you break it down, like Tony Stark's fucking neurotic and like all about himself. And then Doom just like takes that step one step farther, and like
Mm-hmm.
100% believes it and steps on anybody who doesn't fucking believe it and forces it down their throat to believe it. That
The
he
thing
is
is,
the
like,
fucking shit.
Doom backs it up. Like he just
Yeah.
does not stop. And he's a fucking king. He rules the country of Latveria. Like he just doesn't stop. He's probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, comic book character, hands down. Like every book I've ever read him in, he's just kicked so much ass.
I could see why. Like The man does not have an off button, nor does he need one.
No, no, he doesn't. And next week, you guys are just gonna be like, "Oh yeah, this we love Doom." Like even more, even more. I'm telling you, even more. I'm so excited. Um, all right, I'm man crushing on Doom here, so we got to move on.
Well, it leads into the last page of that was they're like, okay, well, everything has dropped down to nearly like 2 dozen universe, and then we have Avengers 44, which I think is the final issue.
Yeah, Avengers 44. Um, where do you want to start from the start, or do you want to like start with probably the coolest scene at like the
You mean
best
that like?
payoff for the whole fucking book?
Yeah, no, let's go with the payoff. And I'm really hoping that you're talking about when Cap and Tony just fucking beat the shit out of each other.
Not only are they fighting, but the way the Hickman flashes back to the first Avengers book. What? Can you talk about just good writing in general? Like that's just
That was so
fantastic.
cool.
Like oh, and he uses the line like the literally the same words. There was two men at the beginning like talks about like Tony and Steve, and like one lives, the one's for life, the other's for death, and only one's gonna win, and then like everything dies, and you're just like shit. Did Tony just win? But nobody
And
wins.
And he's like, oh, and I got the idea, like, as he was talking about, like, the Avengers, because he's like, you knew, like, I want to hear you say that you knew that this was all going to be doomed to fail, like, everything dies. And I kind of have a feeling that, like, one of the reasons that Steve is so upset is not only did the Illuminati lie to him, but Tony lied to him and basically gave him this Avengers idea of being like, here, I know you're going to come to me with this, wanting to protect people. I'm going to basically satiate you for the time being because what you're going to think is just stupid. Like it was a way of patronizing Steve almost, and I think Steve recognized that as well.
Oh, totally, absolutely. Come on now, I know you got some input here for the Steve Tony stuff.
Yeah, I kind of want to look at it again because I mean, I I I felt for Steve the entire time. I really did, and I feel for Tony at the end here, but I I'm back to being on Steve's side again. Because fucking Tony dicked him the entire fucking time.
From the beginning, he
That he
lied to him.
did.
He did. He absolutely did. Um, Tony's an odd character. He's very much a hero, but he's such a flawed, complicated character that you can't help but like. Not only do you want to root for him to get better, but like at the same time, every time he does something like this, you're like, "This is great." Like I love reading it. It just adds spice, you know. But
Hmm.
you're right. Like Steve he's hard not to like. Um, Even when he's cranky old man Cap, who like fucks the Geneva Accords for breakfast, like he's still hard not to like him. I don't know. When you're putting these two against each other, it just feels right. You know what I mean? They're like opposites, and they mash really
It
well.
it kind of sucks though because like you can see them being almost brotherly, like Thor and Hyperion were in that episode, but then like they have the opposite end of it, and
But
they really battle through for it.
well, like It's funny, like that whole brotherly aspect. I think Steve was naive and thought that's what was happening,
Yeah.
and that's why it hurts him so much.
Mm,
Because you're
that's a
like,
good point.
you're watching them fight, right, and you're flashing back to the two of them with their arms around over each other's shoulders, walking down the hallway, literally like brothers. Like Tony even comes in and like, wake up, you old fart. Like he's like badgering him and making fun of him,
Yeah.
like a brother would do, like a friend would do. So like that's why it's as tragic as it is, because you're right. They do have that Hyperion Thor brotherly relationship. It's just tragic. It's not. It doesn't work because
I
of
just want to
Tony's.
say there's one scene that I'm looking back at right now
Hmm.
that Cap just absolutely fucking rails Tony in the face with his shield. Like full on like bouncing off walls throw right into Tony's face. And it's fucking awesome.
And it's like he's
Oh,
got
when
the
he was just
bloody
like, "Are you
nose and stuff.
listening to me, old friend?" and just like wrecks him in the face with it.
Yeah, and then rips off his chest piece. In the next scene, it's fucking awesome.
And then there's the next one where Tony then like blows his face off.
Yeah.
Such a good fight. It's done really well.
I was really so I was really happy that it happened, but I was also kind of surprised in a bit of a way because like you have in the beginning where Tony is like, "Okay, I'm Steve. I'm here to break bread. I'm here to go over this with you." And they're at a restaurant, and so like the entire time I'm thinking, "Oh, they're actually going to try and like talk it out." I'm a little surprised right now, but okay, let's see where this goes. Within a few pages, just everything goes to shit.
Would they bringing out Captain Universe from left field? Like we
Yeah.
haven't seen her in like 20 comics.
Oh yeah, because this is when all the random pieces just start tying in together, and he's like, "Oh, you found her," and he's just like, "Yeah, no, everything's fine." And she just comes out and is like, "No, it's not fine.
You're a
We're all
liar.
screwed."
We're dying. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, I mean
no,
this fight was definitely probably one of the best culminating pieces because it came 100% around. You know, like from the first moment that uh who is it, Doctor Strange fucking puts Steve into his, mind erasing coma on Tony's word, and like Steve waking up and figuring it out and just like absolutely ravaging on fucking Tony makes sense at the very end of this.
and it's honestly like, so one of the first things we talked about. We could not wait to see how Cap was going to react and how.
Hmm.
And when he finally found out, to this point, it has been, I think, great. Like it's just written so well. It's entertaining. It's action packed. You know, I'm just always looking for the next thing.
So I got a question for you both. So in that diner bit where Tony's like, "I'm here to break bread. I'm here to, I'm here to talk to you. Like I'm here to go over these things with you." I honestly thought then that like I knew Cap was still going to react, but there was that part of me that was like, okay, are we going to get logical Cap or are we going to like get revenge Cap? Because he is certainly owed his revenge, but I didn't know what that was going to look like. And so, do you think without Captain Universe, how do you think that catalyst moment would have looked like?
I
Because as
think
soon as she calls Tony on his bullshit, it's instantly go time, and Cap is like, "No, you're a fuck. I'm not listening to you."
I'm gonna go back to what Al was saying about the brotherhood relationship between like Hyperion and Thor and how it relates to Cap and Steve. I think
Hmm.
Steve would have went that route. I think he's just,
Okay.
there is a naivety to him, and like it's just like he's a good guy. He's not about to just throw that out the window, but he's also hot tempered in a way. Like he kind of gets pushed in the right direction, the right things set him off, and he's ready to go. It's go time.
Well, Tony certainly did push him.
absolutely. Uh,
as
yeah,
far as he could,
as far as he could.
and past
Um,
that point.
yeah. There's another part. So I just thought about this with Tony that I wanted to talk about, and it's probably one of the coolest moments that we've had, and it was another good payoff. Um, Soul's Hammer, the the Dyson sphere type thing that shoots a laser from the sun into the Shire fleet.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Now, the only reason the Earth isn't destroyed is because some chick from the future comes and gives them the thing to do the rogue planet. And I thought that rogue planet, we're never going to see it again. I thought it was like a throwaway story that they were just like, oh, we're not going to be able to fit that in. But they did it. And I was like, what? Everything has a purpose. I'm
Yeah,
like,
the tie-ins have been insane.
right. And I was thinking about this. Hickman tends to do this thing where, like, you have this, like, one story that's like a throwaway, and it happens, like, and you're like, oh, well, that's not going to lead to anything. It was fun to read, but that doesn't tie into the big overall story. And then it does. And all these little threads, he, like, put them together, like, real nice at the end. And you're like, wow. I, I couldn't believe it, honestly.
Yeah, when they brought out that rogue planet, and essentially we're like, okay, well, this is what we're doing with it, and it honestly blew me away because I wasn't expecting anything like that, and so when they were just like, okay, here's what we're doing, I'm like, okay. Like, all of the questions that I've been asking were just like, okay, here's the question you asked a while ago. Okay, cool, we're going to answer that right now. Next.
No, absolutely. It was just like one after another. Bang, here's the answer. Bang, here's the answer. It just kept on going. Um,
I
another
want to go
thing,
back to the Steve and Iron Man fight for a minute.
sure.
Sure.
Um, I was just kind of skimming back into it, and it really, this is what I love about Steve Rogers right here. He's like, there's the scene where they're right before they're about to start, and Steve's like, it's time to fucking settle your debt. And Tony's like, dude, you're wearing armor I designed. Like, this isn't gonna fucking happen. And Steve just, like, fucking rocks him through a fucking side of a window. And he's like, it's not the machine, it's the quality of the man inside the machine. You know what I mean? And it just
Oh, that was such
speaks
a good line.
straight to fucking Steve's metal and, just like, that is how he is, A
Love
fucking
that line.
man.
Great.
No, I totally agree with you because that Tony doesn't have anything on that. Like, Reed even said this in one of the previous. It might have even been that same issue or the previous one, where he was talking about it, and Reed was just like, Tony is always going to be Tony. And he goes, at the end of the day, I'm here for my family. Everything I do is for my family. That is my stopping point. I'm protecting my family. And he goes, Tony is good at multitasking. He's good at solving all of these problems. But at the end of the day, he can't be predicted. He can't be contained.
Yeah.
On the head. As yeah.
Yeah, overall, these issues were phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely a good tie up to those two stories.
He did a great job finishing these books. And the page, the last page in Avengers 44, um, where you have the two of them fighting. It says everybody dies or everything dies, and then you see the helicarriers from the Ultimate Universe coming down into 616, and you're like, wow, this is high stakes. Like, this is a big event that's happening. It couldn't have set up Secret Wars better. It's gonna be great. I'm excited for you guys to read it with me.
I'm excited too. I also like, when we were showing that bit with like, General Fury and the Reed, I think it was the Reed from that other world with that helmet on, and he's like, "This is Thanos, and this is, you know, Maximus,"
Mhm.
and he's like, "This is what's happening." Like, automatically, I'm getting the feeling from this Reed is that this is going to be like a. If you were to take the worst parts of Tony that we're already seeing, the worst parts of
Mhm.
Reed that I've seen, and the worst parts of Strange, and just bundle them into one character. He's already given me that vibe.
Yep, and add like the worst parts of Norman Osborn in there too, like the murdery
Oh,
bits. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what you got.
Yeah, he really seems like a piece of shit.
He is not a good guy. He goes by the Maker, and he is just a dick. Like,
he
um,
sounds like kind of a fuck. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah. Honestly, like, if we ever got the Maker on in the MCU, like, I think it would be a really cool story, and this just popped into my head. If you had Evil Reed and Doom has to be the one to stop him, that would be so good.
Ooh.
It would be so good.
Dude, you do love your Doom, man.
I love me some Doom. He is such a good character.
You have a fucking hard on for that motherfucker.
Have you seen his metal mask?
I
It
mean,
gets me every time.
yeah.
Thank you.
No, I'm starting to feel it too. You're good.
Yeah, yeah. Al, you're gonna come around next week.
The
Oh,
Doom love is
I'm
spreading.
there. I love Doom. Just not the way you guys do.
Like I said, you're gonna come
he's
around next
just
week.
he's just so mysterious. What's not to love?
He's fucking awesome.
Yeah. There, I have to find. There's this like one panel from like a comic book from the '60s or '70s where like they're like, Doom, don't toot the horn, and Doom's like, I'll do what I please, and he just toots the horn. It's great. Oh god.
So with that same line of conversation, when you said 60s or 70s, I was like, please don't tell me that Doom was in like a swimsuit comic edition,
Oh,
because I
he
know that
might
was popular back then.
he might have been. It could still be a thing.
Oh jeez. I
uh,
don't want to like him even more. Don't do this to me.
Oh, you will. You will.
Doom sees all.
well, here we are, guys. We're at Secret Wars. Next week we'll read the Zero issue. We'll read issue 1 and issue 2. So there is a Zero issue. I don't remember exactly like how involved it is in the main story. I think it's pretty big, but like I'm also sure that they released it as a free book on like Free Comic Book Day that year to kind of set people
Okay.
into it. Um, I might like take a look at it real fast and just kind of see what it looks like, and then be like yes, no. So we might adapt our list, but if I don't, I'll of course text you guys. But I think any final thoughts on the end of Hickman's Avengers, New Avengers?
Uh, for me, I have one thought, and this is not necessarily on the books as a whole, but like I'll make it connect. I promise.
Okay.
Seeing all of these issues and how the story wraps up, the immense amount of detail, the highs and the lows that we've gone through in order to lead up to Secret Wars, I really enjoyed these four ending issues, and I have no idea how they're gonna adapt, these certain things for the MCU and any sort of lead up and things like that. But and this is the part that's not super connected. For the actors that they don't already have, they need to get somebody solid to step into what Tony was doing, if they make any reference to that, and to play Doom.
Yep, it's all going to come down to casting, and um, I don't know if Secret Wars is going to follow what we're doing here in the books as well. It might just borrow the name. The MCU kind of likes to do that. borrow names and kind of have like the gist of things. Like the Age of Ultron book is nothing like the movie. Age of Ultron in the comics involves a time traveling Wolverine who has to kill Hank Pym to prevent the creation of Ultron. Succeeding in his mission creates a worse alternate universe where Tony is like a tyrant. So that was not the movie whatsoever, but like you get what I'm saying. Like things are different. They just kind of borrow the names. So we'll see. Um, that said, there was some casting rumors I read today that I'm not entirely enthralled with, but like they're only rumors, and who knows if it's true. But the rumor
Okay.
is that Adam Driver is being casted as Reed Richards, and I'm like,
Ugh.
I don't
Are you
love that.
fucking
Really?
kidding me?
I don't love that. We'll
I
have to
fucking
see.
hate that.
The guy who please remind me of his name. The one who played Reed Richards in the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness movie.
John
Krasinski.
Krasinski.
Yeah, they
Yes.
could have just
Who
stuck with
should
that.
play fucking Reed? It was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, I like Krasinski as Reed. People were really down on his performance just because, like, they're like,
He
oh,
was
yeah,
on
no.
screen for less than 30
Right.
seconds.
And he didn't read any of his lines with any of the other actors. He did it all in a remote location, and they just plopped him in.
Such a garbage fucking take on it.
Yeah, absolutely garbage. Um, but let's move on. Let's wrap this up. We can talk about that after. But yeah, so Secret Wars next week, guys. So thanks everybody for coming along with us here. Appreciate you. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, especially you, Zach, if you're listening at this point. I think he's already gone, but again, I'm Ying.
I'm Al.
I'm Shane.
And this was Comic Book Wednesdays. Good night, everybody.
Not y'all.
Have a good night.